All right, welcome to the Evolve Your Performance podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen Gage, and this is episode numero uno, the pilot. This podcast is all about elevating human performance. When we think of the word performance, we think of athleticism. And it's true, in sports, you think sports performance, athletes perform. However, it's not exclusive to just athletes, right? Because all of us have to perform in our life. Nike said it best. They said, "You are an athlete." And what incredible branding. And it really revolutionized the brand of Nike and took it from something that people were just accustomed to wearing on game day to wearing and identifying their clothing brand with just every day and making it more of a lifestyle and an identity of who they were. And I think it's so true that performance isn't limited just to sports. Yes, athletes have to perform on game day and perform in practice, perform in their sports, but we are all athletes in the sight that we have to perform in areas and aspects of our life. So when I say evolving your performance, raising your performance, optimizing performance, it's not to be taken so much literal in the sense of sports and athleticism, but to be taken in all areas of your life. And that's what this podcast is all about. And that's what we're all about here at Evolve Chiropractic and Performance, is elevating performance, but raising it to a new standard and height so you can just be the best version of yourself possible. And that is who this podcast is for. People who are willing to want to become the best version of themselves possible. So, with that being said, what my approach is, and the work that we do here with a lot of our patients here, is I treat everybody like an athlete. And, for myself, it's like I carry a lot of hats. I'm a husband, a father, a business owner, a lot going on, as we all do, right? And we want to try to be the best we can be at all of those different things, right? So, if you own your own business, if you're an employer, you want to be the best you can be for your employer or for your own business, or you want to be the best you can be with your family, with your spouse or significant other. You want to be the best you can with your health, with your hobbies, the things that truly value mean the most to you. And so we try to focus more on the physical, of optimizing your physical performance, but it's what that translates to and leads afterward. So we're going to be bringing on, a host of guests that are going to be sharing their experience with more of the sports side of things, but how that has translated themselves into all areas and aspects of their life. You'll see some solo episodes with me, not too many, but on sharing on a variety of topics, as well as I want to bring in other experts in the field of performance, some colleagues of mine, some fellow doctors and practitioners in the field who are going to be sharing their skills and expertise and experiences with you all, as well as bringing on some of the elite athletes and people that you may be familiar with yourself to come on and share their stories and experiences as well. So I'm very excited for this podcast. We've already had one guest on the show, a very influential member local here in Cherokee County, and he's going to be sharing his story and background. It's going to be a very sweet episode. And we're just going to take this as we go. The topic I wanted to share on this pilot episode is start, period. And this is kind of calling myself out here a little bit on this one, but I think it'll resonate with some of you, is we just need to start. Start on the right things that we know we need to do in our life, but we're delaying it, making excuses, and just dragging it on. I was dragging on and making excuses about starting this very podcast. When I first moved into this location, we started this business. Now we're on month 19, and I had aspirations of wanting to start this podcast when we first moved into the space and opened up. We even had a studio in the back of the clinic where I designated as a media podcast room. Ended up, as we got into business, decided we're going to switch that from a media room into more of an open other office area that we have for our rehab specialists. And just, things carried on. We got busy, focusing on different projects here, and just decided, hey, you know what, this podcast isn't necessarily a priority right now, and just kind of delayed it and pushed it on. But in reality was, yes, it's true to an extent that everything I was saying was true. We don't have the space for it any longer, too busy, have this and that. But reality is they were just excuses. And for me, it was an excuse that I was delaying because I wasn't willing to push through that wall, that boundary of the preparation and material needed to start this new venture of what we're doing. So for me, it was, I got to get all the equipment. I got to get the branding and messaging down of what we want to do with this podcast. So I pretty much already had that created, right? How to get the guests on. We're going to talk about what we're going to do. How can we build a consistency in my work schedule so we can be consistently and upload these episodes, right? And then the inevitables. Well, what if no one listens to it? What if it sucks? What if we quit and fail and become part of the 99%? I think there's a study out right that like 1% of podcasters don't make it past episode 20 or something like that. So all these things went in my mind, and inevitably it was just delaying month after month, year after year, and here we are, month 19, and we're just now starting this podcast when I had the idea in month 1. And life is short. We just had our kid. Noah's now 7 months old, and it's like, how did 7 months pass by? It just times flies, and we got a lot going on. And so I think for me, it was like, hey, you got these goals, you got these ideas. Let's put stuff on paper. Let's actually make the steps forward to make it happen. So the last couple of weeks, we've really just went hard and just did it. And I don't have a plan. I don't have a perfect plan, idea for what this is going to become, but I just decided that, hey, you know what? I'm going to literally press record, and we're just going to go. I didn't have this episode scripted. I literally just said, let's record a pilot, record, talk, speak. When we have guests on, very conversational. Like, let's take this story and just make it how it goes. I'm not the perfect interviewer yet. This isn't the perfect podcast, and we don't have the perfect studio and lighting setup. I'm shooting this literally in the waiting room of our office right now. But I just said, let's make it happen. Put the excuses aside. Let's make it happen, and let's progress this as we go, not reach perfection in the beginning, because you're never going to get there, and you're just never going to start. So start. Period. And we make these excuses. I see a lot of with our patients too, that people delay wanting to take care of themselves. They wait until it gets to such a point where they physically cannot move. And it's gotten so bad that they have no other choice but to start. And sometimes people need that. They need that low point, that breaking point. But reality is there are so many things that we're delaying that if we just started today, it will make our lives so much better and so much easier. So for some people that may be, hey, yeah, you need to show up and go to the chiropractor. You need to show up and come to Evolve, right? We got a lot of people, hey, they're referring their friends and family, but they're delaying the inevitable because they're like, oh, I'll do that next month or next year or what have you. And it's like, why not just now? Why not start that new business adventure? Why not start that new workout program? Why not, build that relationship, that connection? Why not, start that new hobby or take that trip? Like, there's just so many things in our life that I think we make excuses for why we can't do those things, or why we're delaying those things, or why we shouldn't take action for those things. But if it's truly in your heart to want to do it, you should do those things. Life is short, so make it count. Like, now, it has to be the right action too, right? Like, sometimes people have these ideas that just don't make sense. Like, if having a podcast for me was like complete left field, didn't make any sense for me to do it, like, it would be a waste of time to do it. But for me, it was always something that made sense for the business. It's something that, hey, I have a lot of great things to say, and we're going to have amazingness for this podcast. It's going to be well worth your time listening to it. Then it makes sense to do it. So look at the things and say, is this thing something that's going to be worthwhile doing? Is this thing going to make me a better individual and take me closer to my goals? And if that answer is yes, you need to start doing that stuff now. And watch for the careful excuses of it. If your thing is, hey, it's time for me to get in shape, that is a great thing. Like, it is, there is never a bad reason not to get in shape. So if you're out of shape and you're listening to this, like, this is your call. Get in shape. Like, put this in action right now, because if you just get in shape and focus on being the best version of yourself physically as you possibly can be, everything else in your life is going to get so much easier. You're going to be more clear, have more energy. You're going to look better. You're going to feel better. You're going to be better in literally every aspect of your life possible. So it is incredibly important to prioritize that literally right now. Literally right now, you need to prioritize that. You can't go wrong investing in your spiritual life as well. It's kind of one of those things. It's like the physical and the spiritual. It's like you can't go wrong prioritizing those things. So do it. So make it happen. If you hate your job and you have this idea, this new business venture, but you're so scared to want to take the jump, it's like, okay, start building the side hustle now so it makes sense to transition out of the business, but at least take action and work on these things, right? Like, what I hate is when I see people who they don't like where they're at in life, but they're not taking action to change it. Like, it's like, well, if you're unhappy, it's okay to be unhappy, but be doing things that's going to lead you to get out of that, you know? And even happy people, like, I'll consider myself an optimistic individual. I wouldn't consider myself to be unhappy by any stretch of the imagination, but I go through ruts in my life, you know? I go through periods where I feel like I could accomplish more. And when I have those feelings, it's like, okay, it's a trigger for me that let's build momentum and take action. So I kind of had that, recently, where I realized just from the chaos of life of starting my own business to be recently married, to starting a new business, to moving, to having our first child, there's like a lot of things going on in my life where I felt like it was just so much chaos and the storm of things. It sort of just halted everything in my life that I came out of that now, and then I felt like I just was cruising because it's like, okay, I just went through so much stuff. I'm just kind of on autopilot mode and just doing the bare minimum that it takes just to get things by. And that's when I just had that realization of like, hey, I'm getting sloppy, I'm getting a bit sloppy. I can notice, hey, I started seeing the pounds on the scale start to go up. I started seeing, I was coasting in my marriage. I was coasting in, I wouldn't say coasting and being a father because I feel like I'm so new to it, but not like focusing on and not appreciating those daily moments that I get to have with my 7-month-old, because there's so many like first times or that you're going to experience something. There's only so many times you're going to be able to tuck your 7-month-old in bed at night before he's a toddler, before he's older, So it's like you want to maximize each and every time you have with him. I felt that way in many relationships that I just let coast. I felt that way in business where I wasn't taking that next step up as a business owner. I felt a step where I was coasting as a clinician, taking care of my patients. I felt where I was coasting in with this podcast, right? So it was a wake-up call for me to say, that's enough, let's go. And I'm saying it because I took that step for myself, and I'm in a period of my life where it's a radical transformation where I just said, let's get up and let's grind and let's go. And I think maybe somebody here needs to hear that you need to step up and go. And that's where big things start to happen. So it'd be cool to see kind of how this transpires for myself now. I had one past experience with this, which is kind of what inevitably led me to being a chiropractor, which I'll share more about my story maybe on a future podcast. I'm not going to get into it today right now, but I had a very career-ending injury with football, dropping off the field, thought my life ended basically, and I went into an immediate rut where I just completely shut down. And then it was, that kind of that moment of time where I remember I was doing my rehab, my physical therapy, and the physical therapist at the time, really nice guy, he looked at me in the eye and he said, Steven, if you don't fix yourself, you will forever be like this. And he wasn't just talking about the injury, he was talking about my life, that I made so many excuses with, oh, poor me, or poor this, my life's over, meh, silly stuff looking back at it, but it was real to me at the time. But like a flip of a switch, I just said, enough's enough. Let's start. Let's go. Let's grind. Let's get back into shape. Let's rehab my injury. Let's just really transform my life. And that really invigorated me to loving the rehabilitation process, which inevitably led me into becoming a physical therapist. Didn't become a physical therapist, but that I would go that route to discovering that chiropractic care can do everything physical therapy can, plus way more than that. So I had a passion for chiropractic to led me to develop and create what we have here at Evolve Chiropractic, and now Evolve Chiropractic and Performance. So pretty cool stuff happening here. So nevertheless, start, do it, do the things. I don't need to tell you what those things are. You know what they are. Just start and do them. This is a call to action for that. This is a call to action to subscribe to the podcast. This is the call to action to step up, wake up, and be the best version of yourself possible. And we're going to be fueling you with lots of ammunition here on this podcast. A lot of cool, exciting things coming. A lot of guests, topics, ideas, things that you can take away and implement in your life. So I hope you enjoyed listening to this pilot episode. I'm Dr. Stephen Gage. We will look forward to seeing you on future episodes to come. All right, let's turn this thing off. Bye.